Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
නව ලයිෆ් බොයි කොහොම ස්වභාවික කොහොම සාරය සමග හානිකර පැරබන් රහිතයි.
In your headlines tonight, apprehension. A rights group documenting alleged abuses in Sri Lanka files criminal complaint with Singapore's Attorney General, seeking arrest of former Sri Lanka President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Peaceful assembly. President Ranil Wickremesinghe affirms to international community of Sri Lanka's commitment to uphold the right to peaceful, non-violent assembly. Global outbreak. World Health Organization says monkeypox can be stopped with the right strategies in the right groups.
WHO's assessment is that the risk of monkeypox is moderate globally and in all regions except in the European region. For the moment, this is an outbreak that's concentrated among men who have sex with men, especially those with multiple sexual partners.
All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9. This Sunday, the 24th of July, 2022.
වින්දියර මිලිලීටර් 100 ස්මාර්ට් පැක් එක රුපියල් 85ට දැන් වෙළඳ පොලේ.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome bringing you news tonight. I'm Indivariya Muatta. A rights group documenting alleged abuses in Sri Lanka has filed a criminal complaint with Singapore's Attorney General seeking the arrest of former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa for his role in Sri Lanka's decades-long civil war. Reuters reported that the International Truth and Justice Project has said that Gotabaya Rajapaksa committed grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions during the civil war in 2009 when he was the country's defense chief. Based on a copy of the complaint seen by Reuters, it is reported that the South Africa-based rights group argued that based on universal jurisdiction, the alleged abuses were subject to prosecution in Singapore, where former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa flew to following unrest in Sri Lanka. One of the lawyers that drafted the complaint had told Reuters via telephone from Berlin, quote, "The criminal complaint that has been filed is based on verifiable information on both the crimes that have been committed, but also on evidence really linking the individual in question who is now in Singapore," unquote. Singapore really has a unique opportunity with this complaint, with its own law and with its own policy to speak truth to power, the lawyer has said. In response to questions from Reuters, a spokesperson from Singapore's Attorney General's chambers said it had received a letter from the ITJP on July 23rd. Singapore Foreign Ministry earlier this month confirmed that Gotabaya Rajapaksa entered the city-state on a private visit and had not sought or been granted asylum. The ITJP assisted in 2 civil lawsuits against Gotabaya Rajapaksa, proceedings for one of which was served in a California parking lot in year 2019, where he was also a US citizen at the time. Both cases were withdrawn after Gotabaya Rajapaksa was granted diplomatic immunity upon becoming president of Sri Lanka. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has reaffirmed Sri Lanka's commitment to uphold the right to peaceful, non-violent assembly. The president shared this with Colombo-based diplomats on Friday when he convened the envoys to inform them of measures taken in the lead-up to the removal of protesters who were illegally occupying the presidential secretariat premises. According to an official statement issued by the president's media division, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has affirmed to the diplomats that the government will uphold the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Constitution of Sri Lanka. President Ranil Wickremesinghe convened heads of diplomatic missions based in Colombo on Friday to discuss the operation carried out to remove protesters who were illegally occupying the presidential secretariat. During the meeting, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has affirmed that Article 21 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which mandates the right of peaceful assembly, shall be recognized, and Article 14(1)(b) of the Constitution of Sri Lanka, which lays out the freedom of peaceful assembly, would be upheld by the government of Sri Lanka. In a communique issued today, the President's media division said that the head of state clarified to the diplomats that the instructions given by the American Civil Liberties Union states that protesters were not permitted to block government buildings and interfere with other purposes the property was designed for. The diplomats were also briefed on the measures being taken to ensure that non-violent protests were allowed to proceed within the city without endangering property or lives. President Wickremesinghe has said that facilities within Colombo, such as the open-air theatre at the Vihara Mahadevi Park, New Town Hall, Hyde Park and Campbell Park were all being made available to non-violent protests. Addressing diplomatic concerns regarding the Gota Gogama protest site, the President has explained that it was not removed by security forces, contrary to erroneous social media reports. The envoys were also briefed by the Attorney General, who was present at Friday's meeting, on the legal avenues being pursued, including producing all those arrested by police before the Colombo Magistrates Court. UK's Minister of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, Lord Tariq Ahmed of Wimbledon, says the UK will continue to support Sri Lanka through these challenging times. He had made these comments during a telephone conversation with President Ranil Wickremesinghe pertaining to the security and economic situation of Sri Lanka. The conversation was also focused on the right to peaceful protest, media freedom, human rights and justice in Sri Lanka. Lord Tariq has termed his conversation with the Sri Lankan head of state as constructive. Following the election of Ranil Wickremesinghe as the 8th executive president of Sri Lanka, Minister Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon said he looked forward to working with the new Sri Lankan president. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says that he will protect the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, the Sapagaskanda oil refinery and will destroy the fuel mafia under a people-friendly government. During a meeting with the trade union representatives of the petroleum sector, Premadasa said that the country is receiving a 16 to 24% profit by operating the Sapagaskanda oil refinery, adding that they see the closure of such a profit-making institution as a betrayal to the nation.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa met with several trade union representatives attached to the petroleum sector at the opposition leader's office in Colombo yesterday.
රටට කුමන මතයක් විවිධ පාර්ශ්වයන් ඉදිරිපත් කරත් අපේ රටේ තෙල් සංස්ථාව ඒ වගේම තෙල් පිරිපහදුව අපි රකින්නට ඕන අපි ආරක්ෂා කරන්නට ඕන. අපේ රටේ තෙල් පිරිපහදුව ගත්තොත් මේ වන විට පිරිපහදුව ක්‍රියාත්මක වීම තුළ අනිවාර්යෙන්ම රටට 16% සිට 24% දක්වා ලාභයක් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම හිමි වෙනවා. එවිට අපි ප්‍රශ්න කරන්නට ඕන තෙල් පිරිපහදුව වසා දැමීම රාජ්‍ය ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් බවට පත්විය යුත්තේ කුමන හේතුවකටද? ලාභ ලබන ආයතනයක් වසා දමනවායි කියන එක අපි දකින්නේ දේශද්‍රෝහී ක්‍රියාවක් හැටියට. අද මේ තෙල් ගනුදෙනු සියල්ලක්ම කොමිස් කාක්කන්ගේ ඩොලර් කාක්කන්ගේ ග්‍රහණයට ලක් වෙලා තිබෙනවා. විවිධ බලවත් පවුල්වල ගජමිතුරන් මේ තෙල් මාෆියාවේ ඒජන්තකරුවන් බවට පත් වෙලා තිබෙනවා. මම ඔය තෙල් මාෆියාවේ සියලු දෙනාටම උපදෙසක් දෙන්නට කැමතියි. ඔබලට තවදුරටත් මේ මාෆියාව පවත්වාගෙන යන්නට පුළුවන් ටික කාලයක් පමණයි. අපි ජනතාවාදී ආණ්ඩුවක් තුල තෙල් සංස්ථාවත් රැක ගන්නවා, තෙල් පිරිපහදුවත් රැක ගන්නවා. මේ රටේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වන ඒ තෙල් මාෆියාවත් සුණු විසුණු කර විනාශ කර දමනවායි කියන එක අවධාරණය කරන්නට කැමතියි.
Now, all government and government-approved private schools that were closed, taking the current fuel crisis and the political situation in the country into account, will reopen tomorrow. The Provincial Secretaries of Education, Provincial Directors of Education, Zonal Directors of Education, Deputy Additional Directors of Education divisions have been informed of the guidelines on resuming in-person lessons at schools. The Ministry of Education said last week that in-person learning in schools will be limited to 3 days a week until further notice. Accordingly, it said that schools will function during normal hours only on Mondays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, while on Wednesdays and Fridays, students should be given learning activities via homeschooling or distance learning method. Education Secretary of the Southern Province, however, announced today that all government schools under the purview of the Southern Provincial Council will function across all 5 days of the week, starting tomorrow. Ceylon Electricity Board request to schedule power interruption of 3 hours tomorrow has been approved by the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. Accordingly, groups A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W will experience power interruption of 1 hour and 40 minutes during daytime and 1 hour and 20 minutes during night time. Group CC, meanwhile, will have a power cut of 2 hours and 30 minutes from 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Now, power interruption to groups M, N, O, X, Y, Z has been scheduled from 5:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. What is this monkeypox outbreak we're talking about? We'll find out when we return after this break.
Big 3.
Welcome back to the news. Now, in a backdrop where World Health Organization has declared the monkeypox outbreak a global emergency, Sri Lankan health authorities request inbound travelers to disclose particular information on health condition if suffering from fever or a similar illness, as health officials will be able to immediately provide necessary treatment to contain the virus. The WHO, the apex body responsible for international public health, says that the risk of monkeypox is moderate globally and it can be stopped with the right strategies in the right groups. Further, health experts also say that there are tools against the virus, such as the smallpox vaccine, which is said to be 85% effective against the monkeypox virus. Monkeypox has been declared a global health emergency by the World Health Organization. But what is it? Monkeypox is a rare disease caused by infection with the monkeypox virus, a viral zoonotic infection, meaning that it is transmitted to humans from animals. Monkeypox can also spread from person to person. Scientists first discovered monkeypox in the year 1958 in captive monkeys used for research in Denmark, and confirmed the first case of a human infected with the virus in the year 1970 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The most common symptoms of monkeypox include fever, headache, muscle aches, back pain, low energy and swollen lymph nodes, followed or accompanied by the development of a rash which can last for 2 to 3 weeks. The rash can be found on the face, palms of the hands, soles of the feet, eyes, mouth, throat, groin, and genital and or anal regions of the body. Symptoms typically last 2 to 3 weeks and usually go away on their own or with supportive care, such as medication for pain or fever. Monkeypox spreads from person to person through close contact with someone who has monkeypox rash, including through face-to-face, skin-to-skin, mouth-to-mouth, or mouth-to-skin contact, including sexual contact. In the past, between 1 to 10% of people with monkeypox have died. So far this year, 5 people have died within the current outbreak of the virus. The virus, which was common in Africa, made its first outbreak outside Africa in the United States in 2003 and was linked to contact with infected pet prairie dogs. These pets had been housed with Gambian pouched rats and dormice imported into the country from Ghana. The most recent outbreak of this viral infection, meanwhile, emerged in May this year, beginning with a case found in the United Kingdom. On the 7th of May, the World Health Organization informed of a confirmed case in an individual who travelled from the UK to Nigeria and subsequently returned to the United Kingdom. Studies are currently underway to further understand the epidemiology, sources of infection and transmission patterns, as multi-country outbreak of this infection is currently underway in places where the virus has not been typically found before. According to the World Health Organization, over 16,000 cases of monkeypox have so far been reported from 75 countries across the world. Europe is currently the global epicenter of the outbreak, reporting over 80% of confirmed cases worldwide in this year. The US has reported more than 2,500 monkeypox cases so far across 44 states, including Washington, D.C. In the Southeast Asian region, 4 cases of monkeypox have been reported, 3 from India and 1 from Thailand. According to WHO, the cases in India are among nationals who returned home from the Middle East, while in Thailand, a foreigner living in the country has been confirmed positive for monkeypox.
WHO's assessment is that the risk of monkeypox is moderate globally and in all regions, except in the European region, where we assess the risk is high. There is also a clear risk of further international spread, although the risk of interference with international traffic remains low for the moment. So in short, we have an outbreak that has spread around the world rapidly through new modes of transmission about which we understand too little and which meets the criteria in the international health regulations. For all of these reasons, I have decided that the global monkeypox outbreak represents a public health emergency of international concern. Although I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern, for the moment this is an outbreak that's concentrated among men who have sex with men, especially those with multiple sexual partners. That means that this is an outbreak that can be stopped with the right strategies in the right groups. It's therefore essential that all countries work closely with communities of men who have sex with men to design and deliver effective information and services and to adapt measures that protect the health, human rights, and dignity of affected communities.
Monkeypox is the same virus family as smallpox, but milder. The WHO and national health agencies have decades of experience fighting smallpox, which was declared eradicated in the year 1980. Health experts say antiviral treatments are available for persons exposed to monkeypox or with monkeypox virus infection with an efficacy rate of 85%.
Currently, the smallpox vaccine is effective against monkeypox virus, and it is about 85% effective in preventing the disease. And also, there are certain antivirals available, which is currently available in the market. Unlike COVID-19, we have had this disease for more than 50 years, and we know about the disease. There are plenty of research happened with the monkeypox virus. That's why we have all the armory to fight against smallpox virus. The most important thing with regards to monkeypox virus is prevention. It's easy to prevent because the transmission is mostly with close contact, and if you can prevent close contact, you can prevent the transmission. Especially close contact has to be stopped between persons who has symptoms.
According to the Ministry of Health, no cases of monkeypox is reported in Sri Lanka. Speaking to AdaDerana, Deputy Director General of Education and Research at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, requested inbound travellers to disclose relevant information on health condition if suffering from fever or a similar illness, as health officials will be able to immediately provide necessary treatment to contain the virus. The National Fuel Pass pilot project based on QR system will continue to be tested island-wide tomorrow at filling stations in a bid to improve fuel dispensing and also end fuel hoarding. According to Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara, the pilot project that was conducted during the past few days was a success, and locations that were not tested will be tested within the next couple of days.
Since 21st of July, a pilot project was conducted at filling stations across the island to test the effectiveness of the QR code system. According to Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara, the fuel pass QR was successfully tested at 20 locations island-wide on 4,708 vehicles. He said that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation was scheduled to test the system at 25 locations. However, due to non-placement of orders, delays in placing orders and delays in delivery, 5 locations that were not tested will be tested in the next 2 days. Until then, fuel was issued during the day as per the final digit of the vehicle registration number in a bid to end queues near filling stations. Today, fuel was issued to vehicles with registration numbers ending with digits 3, 4 and 5. As usual, fuel queues continued to be seen near filling stations during the day. Further, tense situations were also witnessed at certain filling stations as well.
Taking you to business news, Professor of Political Economy at Johns Hopkins University, Derana English, told CNBC that Sri Lanka will need to emerge from the current political state before the International Monetary Fund can step in with a bailout package. According to the Professor English, the IMF cannot interact with the government of Sri Lanka when the situation is in a mode of continuing crisis.
Well, the IMF was in Sri Lanka in June. They are trying to put together a staff-level program. And in order to do that, they need to work together with a Sri Lankan government to come up with assurances, both from the Sri Lankan side, that they will get their fiscal house in order in terms of trying to make sure that their government revenues and their expenditures match up better, which has not been the case, and also to get assurances from Sri Lanka's creditors that they will provide whatever assistance is necessary to bring Sri Lanka's debt to a sustainable level. And without that, without those negotiations, without that assurances, the IMF cannot bring, the staff cannot agree on a program with Sri Lanka, and then there's nothing to bring to the board, which would have to vote on this. So they're at a point now where they don't really have a government to negotiate. Well, the IMF was already calling this the social and political emergency back in June. And so the situation has not stabilized yet. And the IMF cannot, the teams there cannot interact with the government when things are in a continued crisis mode. So until the government stabilizes, until they have a minister of finance, there's no one for the IMF to talk with. And until that happens, there's nothing they can do. They really have to wait they don't just provide assistance on the basis of an emergency. It has to be sustainable because the IMF will not lend into a situation where they deem their money will not be repaid.
Taking you to some international business news, Ukraine pressed ahead with efforts to restart grain exports from its Black Sea ports under a deal aimed at easing global food shortages, but warned deliveries would suffer if a Russian missile strike on Odessa was a sign of more to come. President Volodymyr Zelensky denounced yesterday's attack as barbarism that showed Moscow could not be trusted to implement a deal struck just one day earlier with Turkish and United Nations mediation. The Ukrainian military, quoted by the country's public broadcasters, said the Russian missiles did not hit the port's grain storage area or cause significant damage. Kiev said preparations to resume grain shipments were ongoing. Now, Russia said today its forces had hit a Ukrainian warship and a weapons store in Odessa with its high-precision missiles. The deal signed by Moscow and Kiev on Friday was hailed by a diplomatic breakthrough that would help curb soaring global food prices by restoring Ukrainian grain shipments to pre-war levels of 5 million tons a month. Now, China's homegrown C919 narrow-body jet designed to challenge the Airbus-Boeing duopoly is nearing certification as its test planes completed all of the test flight tasks. The state-owned manufacturer Commercial Aircraft Corps of China has said on its official social media account that the 6 test planes have completed testing tasks as the program enters the final stage of receiving a certificate from the Civil Aviation Administration of China, which is required for commercial operations. That would mark a milestone in China's ambitions to climb up the aircraft manufacturing supply chain. Well, that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.